Hi, I'm Greg Beckett. I'm a chartered investment manager that works with Wealth, Estate, and Financial Canada. And my two guests today are first Seema Sharma, who's got an MBA and she's a financial planner, strategist. My second guest is Guy Manzilla, who is a registered psychotherapist and also a life coach. So today we're talking about the intersection between mental health, financial health, spiritual health, and how the three of them affect each other. Guy, what are your thoughts on how the three of these areas are related to each other?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And is a big question, and I think one that I could probably speak for a long time. So let's try to bring it down to maybe the basics. These three areas are interrelated and impossible to separate. The many ways to think about it could be understanding that for as long as we are lacking in one of these areas, the other two will be impacted. And I think our job is to try to bring forward all the areas together in harmony. Obviously, if you're in a mental state that is difficult to feel grounded, to feel confident, it's difficult to feel empowered, it's very unlikely that the decisions that you make from that state will be beneficial, including in the financial area or in the personal health area. The areas that we're discussing are intimate, interrelated, and we should think them in that way.
Seema, how have you seen this in your practice? How the financial health can affect the mental health and even the spiritual health of your clients?
So I completely agree with Guy here that these three areas, mental health, spiritual well-being, and financial well-being, they're all interrelated. If one is suffering, the other two are impacted completely. And I see it day in, day out. You would notice that in Canada, there is about 20% of the population that is disabled. I know it's a huge number and it's shocking. But if I can just guess, don't quote me on this, but you know, those 20% of the population that's on disability, I can guarantee you that most disabilities happen out of the not having enough financial resources, not having the mental balance, or not feeling happy. These are the three areas, guaranteed 100%.
And I guess you've probably seen where people haven't had the right financial plan or the right strategy, and they have now, as they're getting closer to retirement, they've got all of this stress of feeling like, I can't retire when I thought I was going to retire. What am I going to do? And this is just weighing on them and affecting their mind and their spirit, I guess, you see that as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, being an immigrant myself, I can tell you that the lifestyle that we follow in Canada is very different than the world I come from. My parents, my grandparents, they believed in living for tomorrow. And sometimes they sacrificed their today for tomorrow. But here I find, including myself, my own kids, we believe in living for today and not planning for tomorrow. I'm not saying everybody, but in general, a lot of us are living in a net zero world, which means I get paid on Friday and I have no money by Thursday next week or Wednesday next week. And that creates a lot of stress.
Putting on your coaching hat as opposed to your psychotherapy hat, tell us a little bit about how, if you can get people in the right frame of mind, how that can increase their performance, not just their financial performance, but their performance in other areas of life as well.
Well, the beautiful thing about coaching is that it's a strategy that allows us to move from point A to point B and understanding human behavior enough to be able to inspire, motivate, acquire skills, develop confidence, and so on and so forth. So when we particularly when I see people that are struggling in the financial area, most of the time they're not looking at their capabilities, and they're not looking at the skills, and they're not confident in themselves. So being able to shift the mindset and understand self-value is really helpful to then inspire and motivate people to figure it out what are their particular passions and skills that are of interest to them, and then how to monetize them, how to trade them for value in the market by mostly serving and bringing that service to the market. So being able to understand one's own capabilities and one's own limitations is kind of what we do at the beginning of any process, to then being able to figure out where do we need more support and more challenge to allow the system to evolve and grow into a more powerful one.
So I guess part of that strategy would be to create a vision of what's possible, a vision of the future, and then figure out what the steps are to get from here to there. Is that part of what
Yeah, a lot of people come already with a sense of what they would like, and even sometimes know what might be next steps. Most of the time, the problem lies at a mental or emotional level, in which people struggles to be able to do what they hope or plan to do. So my job most of the time is to try to help them uncover what is getting in the way that is not obvious or available yet to them. And those are the things, like any stone in the middle of the way. Those are the things that when we recognize that they are blocking the path, then our job is to figure out what happened that remains there, and even what happened that it was blind to the person. When we understand and uncover those pieces of blockages, then we can actually remove the debris and allow the plan to be executed. And then accountability is essential to any process, to be able to learn to say what we do and do what we say more often than not. So in our position, it's always an honor to be able to be the one that people will end up reflecting with, and we become accountability partners in many of the process. And that, just counting, anybody that is an entrepreneur knows, counting helps. So when you count the things that you do, you can actually assess if you achieve the goals or not, and if you need to modify things to attempt in the next stage of the planning.
So when we look at this idea of how one is connected to the other, the financial health and the mental and spiritual health and physical health as well, Seema, as you mentioned earlier, it almost seems like it's like spokes in a wheel. And if you work really hard just to get one spoke long to meet the goal, but the other spokes are short, then you're not really that functional. Like a wheel doesn't roll very functionally. If you'd be better off to have that one long spoke shorter and spend more time on the other, so that you have balance, you have wholeness, I guess. Is that what you find?
Yeah, that's a great way of thinking, that is simple and elegant. And simplicity and elegance is something that is usually really good to have when we're working in personal development, because it can get complicated and somewhat mysterious. So that is a simple way of thinking about it. If you think about a pie or a wheel, we need to have the main areas of our life in somewhat of harmony. Doesn't matter if you're super financially well off. If you have no health, everybody that have money and no health will tell you, I will trade it all for health.
Well, an example that came to mind as you were saying that was Howard Hughes, who near the end of his life, he had a lot of money, but he didn't have mental health or peace of mind. Seema, tell me about some of the strategies you have for reducing risk. So there's the aspect of the financial strategy to grow as fast as possible, the nest egg, but then there's another element to reduce risk. What are some of the things you do in that regard?
So Greg, I know I talk about financial field all the time. We talk about money all the time, but I'm finding mental health is so interesting right now. I want to almost jump in, but I'm not an expert. So I'm going to take a step back and tell you how, when I meet with clients, maybe Guy would agree, sometimes clients are doing great in life. Okay, they're busy. They're busy with family, with money, with jobs, with travel, with relationships, but they're feeling overwhelmed. So my job first is, sometimes as a financial coach, I feel that you become part of, you take on a role of a life coach, which is not right. I shouldn't, I'm not qualified. But I ask them, I go, what are the priorities for you? Because I only found out about my priorities at about age 35. Until then, I was just running. And it just so happened when somebody, a mentor of mine asked me, what are your priorities in life? I had no idea. And I had to make a list. We went through an exercise. And that's when I found out my health, whether it's mental or physical, my health is number one. My family is number two. And then, of course, my financial health is number three, right? Just having that clarity, once my clients find that clarity in their own lives, everything else is easy. I don't know if that makes sense, Guy, prioritizing to
Yeah, it makes
achieve.
a lot of sense. Yeah. And I think looking at it from that angle, we tend to intellectually be able to understand that without health, there is no benefit in financial well-being. But it's very difficult to apply in the daily basis. And that tends to be a big part of my work as a therapist mostly, but sometimes as a coach, where we have to turn an intellectual wisdom or awareness into an embodied or wholesome understanding of reality. And at that point, then is when we're able to actually take care of our health and take care of our relationships and balance those most important things, while at the same time including financial well-being and health. And they shouldn't need to be against each other. We shouldn't be sacrifice. We shouldn't need to sacrifice one or the other one. I think part of the wisdom of living a good life is figure out how to use the limited resources that we have to bring all these kind of juggling act together and keep it in a stasis or balance.
And I don't want to miss your question, Greg, sorry. You asked what are some of the risk management strategies I use? Well, many, because you know what, priority number 3 for me is financial planning. So I want to make sure that my clients do not take any stress about saving money, about having right risk mitigating strategies in place, right retirement strategies in place. I always make sure that I'm investing their money according to their wish, their personality, their comfort zone. So these are some of the non-negotiables when I build a financial plan for my clients.
Right, and I guess also you have expertise in insurance, so you know where they need insurance, where they do not need insurance, and how they can get the most coverage for the least amount of money because of your background.
That is part of the financial planning, and one who calls themselves or himself or herself a financial planner must have those. Yes.
Guy, as you were talking earlier, I was thinking about the talking about balance. I was thinking about the 80-20 rule that says 80% of the value of something comes from only 20% of the time and effort spent on it. And it seems to me that if there's balance, that you're employing some of this 80-20 rule, you're getting a lot more overall life quality than you would by spending too much time on one category at the expense of the other and being a superstar in one area, but then falling short in the other. And then when you add up all the columns, you're actually underperforming what you would be in terms of quality of life than if you'd have just balanced things out.
That's right. And I think we have a sense of that in we all have this kind of experience where we're having a great day or a really good day, but something that happened that takes us off that good flow. If we're not really strong mentally, that is potentially one aspect of the whole day that could take our state of mind and our state of content or well-being to a very low or lower place. Our job is to really being able to differentiate and understand that we need to put the most amount of effort in what really rewards not just us, but rewards the world as a whole through our effort. If we find a way to do that, then we'll be balancing things out, and we'll learn about balance mentally, and we'll be able to also resist and tolerate those things that are not explained, not expected, and not wished for, but that happens. So basically, that doesn't ruin the mood or the state or the flow, and we can understand that we can actually face that and put forward a good attitude to whatever comes in our life. That mindset, I think, is probably a big part of what the most exciting part of my work is. Ultimately, if we train the mindset to be in a uplifting, positive, engaged, committed, passionate, grounded, bunch of things that we like as humans as traits. But if we train ourselves to be in that state, to figure it out through mindfulness when we're moving away from it, and to be able to reinstate that state, then life becomes better by its own, by the practice itself.
So Guy, as we're wrapping up this podcast, do you have any sort of quick summary advice or books that you recommend to people?
Oh, well, books is depending on the topic. I will think that maybe the biggest thing for me is connecting emotions and intellect and being able to bring the two together. So a lot of people might be counterintuitive, but to do well in life, we have to be able to sense and perceive and allow the information to come in at a deep level. So to do well in life, if we become more open, vulnerable, available to the inputs from the world, basically one simple way of thinking is if we're able to cry, if we're able to emote, if we're able to express love and dislike and care and truth when it's hard, and if we're able to bring that forward, we'll have a lot more access to greater and greater information and awareness of ourselves and how can we meet the world. So allow the sensitivity and mindfulness and awareness of self to increase. That will lead to better choices and better options for a better life. And that will build better health, better financial health, better spiritual health. So I will stick to be aware that your tears and your vulnerability are not your enemies, and they are not weakness. What they are is information that will allow any of us to move forward in a self-aware way in that allows us to feel empowered and to feel capable to deal with life and to make a good go at it.
You're talking about becoming emotionally honest or naked or vulnerable. That's a hard thing. That's asking people to step out of their comfort zones, but you're saying it's worth the effort. It's worth taking, and in life, I've never heard anyone say that I should do that. So we're not trained to think about doing that. In the same way, Seema, you were not told in school that you should make a list of your priorities. What are your objectives? What do you want out of life? Not just one area, but in all areas. So thank you, Guy, for that advice. I will do that. And Seema, what are some of your thoughts to kind of wrap up this discussion? What's your advice or books that you might recommend to the listeners?
Yeah, and you know what? I was just listening to Guy talk, and that just gave me my answer, which is no matter what you earn and no matter what kind of life you live, don't compare yourself to others. I know dentists and doctors because I work closely with them. A lot of the society members feel that they are rich because they're earning a lot. That is not true. I have clients that are earning 35,000 and 40,000 as husband and wife, and they actually live a better quality lifestyle than some of my specialists and dentists that are earning 1 million, 1.5 million or more. So it's not about how much you earn, it's about how well you enjoy that money, what you're putting aside for tomorrow and what you're enjoying today. And what is that money doing to the society? That's another thing. You know, money can get you lost sometimes. I'll tell you a small story before we break off. I have a client who is raising a village in another country, and he is so happy. I'm amazed at the kind of lifestyle he maintains for himself. Okay, he maintains a lifestyle that he can live with minimum wages in Canada. And he's supporting all these kids somewhere else so that they can live and excel in their life. So find out what your goal in life is, what your priority is, where do you want your money to be, and what you want that money to do for you. How do you get happiness in life? You know, I have 7 adopted kids. I want to make sure I look after them and I keep them happy. Regardless of what I have in my bank account, what gives me more happiness is what's happening on the other side. So that'd be my
And
thoughts.
beautiful, beautiful. Paradoxically, that state of mind is what leads to greater financial freedom. And if you do it that way, then the money comes as a nice side effect of living a great life of service, instead of I need more money because that is where happiness or some form of beauty comes from. And no, those that like us are lucky enough to have some money can attest that that's not where it buys pleasure. It does not buy happiness or love. That have to come out of our wisdom.
Excellent.
It's your impact that I'm not talking about money as much today.
But you did say the things that are so critical for people to understand how to make management of money a lot closer to a good overall health. And I think that's what we're here trying to bring value to people in understanding how to be happier and wealthier and spiritually more attuned and connected.
Guy and Seema, thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you for your time too. Great job keeping us on track and helping us bring forward more information. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.